of the masses. This is what they use. This is literally like a false god, like Jesus said it. This is a false master. It's a liar. It's a whore. And we have to understand that we have been prostituted, and we've all bought into this form of prostitution, and some of us are conscious of it, some of us are semi-conscious of it, and some of us seem to be oblivious and unconscious to it. But this is how we've been duped. But even if tomorrow we did have that full, universal social economic justice around the world, whereby dubious warfare came to an abrupt halt because it'd be impossible to foster the support for dubious war if you didn't have a way to incentivize people with this monetary-based reality that's been inflicted on us, that we're all, diseased with. You'd have a world, a society, a civilization of true progress. Crime would dry up because the vast majority of crime is related to this form of oppression. I don't know who it was that said, nobody is truly free while others were oppressed, but I've heard that, and that's very true. And this is what we have to understand, is that we are osmotically connected. This is an inextricable reality that we all must come to grips with. That if you say, hey, look, I'm doing fine and I can't worry about that guy's problem, then you are deceived. Okay, that's it. You're living in a false paradigm. You've divorced yourself from your fellow human being, and therefore you've put up a wall of enmity between you and the mind of God. Because to God, this is an immutable law, the interconnectivity of all human beings. For us to understand we are a brother's keeper, we need to care about those that are weaker than us in whatever way that is. And we have to understand their welfare is literally our welfare. That their way out of oppression is our way out of oppression. Their way to freedom is our way to freedom. Their path to happiness is our path to happiness. This is the way God made it, and there's no way that we can circumvent that fact. And all the trying in the world isn't going to change that. And in our right mind, this is the way that we would want it to be. We don't want to be anybody that God doesn't want us to be. So another thing that would disappear, of course, would be debt, because once you end financial disparity, and not by taking from the haves and giving to the have-nots, that's why I'm opposed to taxation, leveling the playing field instead through sound currency. So it's just a matter of letting your ship stay risen and letting you have your wealth, but also allowing others to have their ship risen in this tide of prosperity, and letting their ship and letting them have wealth as well. That's it. That's what I'm talking about. That's a level playing field. And we're at a point in history where this could have been our reality a long, long time ago. Okay, where everybody could have not only all their needs met, simple needs, because you have only very few essential human needs. Food, shelter, that's housing, and clean water. That's it. The clothes are even optional, no pun intended. But, this is a matter of fact, that as long as you have shelter, as long as you've got sustenance, your food, and clean potable water, then you can survive. So we could have had those things many decades ago, before I was born likely. This is based on supply and demand factual statistical evidence that I can point to. For example, there's more excess surplus housing in America than ever before in history, and yet the cost of housing is higher than ever before in history. And according to the law of supply and demand, that doesn't jive. That makes absolutely no sense at all. You understand that the more excess supply you have, the more productive you are, then your burden should go down. Your burden being your cost of living. It's just supply and demand. That's just the way it ought to be, folks. That's what it's supposed to be, unless markets are manipulated. So what you've got is people that are engaging in price fixing, market manipulation, price rigging, under the guise of capitalism. But if you look up the term crony capitalism, you understand that even associating with capitalism at all is a facade, it's a pretense. And that if you really want to understand what capitalism is, you've got to understand simple supply and demand philosophy, laws. And it is the way if things had a natural price point, this is what you would see. You would see, instead of an automotive factory laying people off because they were overproductive, what you would see is cars continue to fall in price until they were free. You say, well, how would anybody make any money? That doesn't make sense. Well, understand this, that your cost of living, the people running the factory's cost of living, the people working at the factory, their cost of living is in decline all the while too. So not only is it car prices that are going down, but your housing prices are going down because we keep building too many houses. We've got extra houses everywhere. Most people are buying houses today. They already own at least one house, and they're just becoming overlords, landlords. They want something, that reciprocating income, that, what do they call it, revolving income. And so that's the way it is. The overlords of old were looked at with disdain often because most of them were considered mean. They were oppressive. They extracted taxes out of the poor. And this whole idea of taxes came from tithing in the Bible, which was supposed to be just to give to the poor. They usurped that idea, and instead of it being a voluntary giving like tithing is, this 10%, now it's a mandatory, tithing, taxing, done with coercion, and it's very painful. So that's the people running our lives. They force us to go along with their program, and if we don't go along with their program, well, they can do many things that are very intimidating. They can take all your stuff. They can make your life hell. They can take any monies you have, and they can take your freedom. It's that simple. And if that's not, if that doesn't disincentivize anybody from wanting to go up against the system, I don't know what does. Because they can make your life very unpleasant, to put it mildly. So understand that we could have had this reality a long time ago, according to the law of supply and demand, if we had a true free market supply and demand capitalist system. So any notion that we have capitalism, that capitalism is at fault for the economic woes that we have, not only in America but worldwide, and in particular, I mean the growing wealth disparity, where, you got poor people. Yes, we've always had poor people, and then they set up the government, whoever that is, because the government is supposed to be we the people. So if, you were paying taxes to we the people, I mean, it's just as appropriate to send a check to me or you or anybody else, because we too are included in the government, we the people. But no, what we've got is, we've got a conglomerate, and it is a monopoly, and it consists of special interest groups that in the aggregate are a special interest combine, and that is, therein lies your monopoly, and that is the system. That's the establishment and people working within the establishment. And when you consider all the people that are doing jobs that are absolutely non-productive, okay, they are not building a widget of any sort out there. They're not doing any services. They're not providing any commodities. They're just big fat leeches. And that goes for anybody today that is involved in this system, because the system is literally built to fail. But, these people aren't prepared for what failure really looks like on a grand scale, because in the past, if you look through history, you could say, well, we've had mild failures here and there and everywhere with, what you eventually get when you oppress people enough. When you invent enough poverty for too many people, you start stealing the wealth of too many of the, what we call the middle class and the working class, the working poor class, the underclass. Then, people rise up. They get really mean, and then, even law enforcement doesn't want to approach these people. So, the system says, oh my God, we can't even get these people that we've hired to be good minions who, these are the defenders, the protector. The public looks up to the law enforcement, and as we all, should. I mean, every one of us has an obligation to be law enforcement and to protect the weak and vulnerable, do what we can to be decent, upright citizens and all that kind of stuff. I mean, these are moral laws I'm talking about, which is really all our laws should be based on. I mean, there's got to be an awful lot of law enforcement officers out there that don't like to evict people from houses that the banks have stolen in a roundabout way. I mean, they didn't literally just say, aha, but they do say, aha, I got you. They got you with the fine print. These liar loans aren't by mistakes. People will say, well, that's the consumer that lied. The buyer lied about his income, for example, to get that loan, and it's his own fault. But who put the fine print in there? That's the sorcery. Those are the people that are most at fault. But I got to tell you, if I was a cop, there's no way I'd ever kick anybody out of one of these houses that's been stolen in this manner. It's just, it's just criminality. We've got open criminality, lawlessness, and it's going largely completely unpunished, overlooked, because these people wear nice suits and they've got these positions of prominence and power in the world in the eyes of the media. They're exalted. So apparently they can do no wrong, you know what I mean? Because they got the money. I mean, look what sycophants people are to people, and they know, oh, you're a billionaire. Oh, gee whiz. I mean, these people ought to have to spend, spend this money, this power of this world, this false god, and purchase assets. If they had to do that, they'd say, I can't control this stuff anymore. I own so many houses now. I own so many factories, and I own so many cars and jets and boats and ships and, whatever, luxury commodities and trinkets they want or need. They can have all that stuff. But, if people did have to put their money, which a lot of this stuff is just fiat currency, it's invented, it's just printed up out